Hi, welcome to the Sew Along 2018 with GourmetQuilter. We're doing a New Zealand quilt and we're up to block 12 out of 25, so that's pretty good. If you've already purchased the pattern from GourmetQuilter.com, you'll have your notes. If you haven't, then it's not too late at GourmetQuilter.com for the Sew Along 2018. So this time we're doing block 12. We've got some applique to do this time. We're going to do a delicious looking sheep because there's lots of sheep in New Zealand. The pattern will give you, we do 2 blocks of each one. The pattern will give you both ways to trace your sheep so that they can face each other and have a little chat now and then, because sheep are quite sociable, I've discovered. So I've already done one of my blocks, which is over here. So I can, and I'm just going to show you how I go about positioning and doing the next one. So I know that really you probably know how to do the applique, but we'll just run through how I go about it. So what I've already done here is I've already positioned the feet, so this sheep is going the other way to the one I've already done. I've already positioned and actually stitched around my feet. I like to get everything in place, and you can do that without having to iron everything on. And the reason I do some of the little bits first is if they sit underneath, I like to get them stitched, and then I don't have to worry about tying off the ends because they're all going to be covered by the next piece. So I'll go ahead and pop the next piece on, ready for the next lot of stitching. So you may prefer to iron everything on all at once. I like to do it so that I cover my ends. So it's really all a matter of personal choice on these sorts of things. There's no right or wrong way, there's just the way that you do it. So these bits have to overlap the feet there. There's a head that's got to go on, and that's going to sit up here somewhere. And there's some ears that are going to go on, that's going to give them a little bit of character, and some eyes and things. So I'm actually going to leave the head till afterwards again, just because that sits on top of this shape, and I just find it easier to go around a shape without having another one where I've got to stop and start all the time. So I'm just going to iron that on, and I'll go to the sewing machine. So I'm just using a machine blanket stitch around, so it's all fused on. And I would just come and I would stop and start where the head's going to go. I would stop and start underneath that so that I don't have to tie off ends and there's no sort of ugly bits. Not that there'd be ugly bits, but you know. So I'm just going to go ahead, and I've got a blanket stitch. I've got the foot that allows my needle to swing on the machine. I've just reduced my machine blanket stitch a touch because I found it was just a little bit long and a little bit wide for this sort of applique, because some of the bits are quite fiddly. And really just do that, and then if you can have the needle down, and when you get to a point where you need to swivel a little bit, always make sure the needle down is on the right, on the background, and just lift your foot a little bit and just swivel, and on the tight bits every stitch if you need to, and just go all the way around. So I've gone ahead and stitched all the way around my body, and this little sheep, he's been a very hungry sheep. Seems to have eaten lots of kiwi fruit. Now I've positioned the face already because I'm using the steamer seam. It tends to stick, has a little bit of sticky, and I'm just going to iron the face over the top there, and then I'm going to pop the ears on now as well, and I think it'll be a couple of goes at doing around the ears so that we can do as much continuous sewing. You don't want to start and stop if you don't have to when you're doing this sort of applique. So I think he's looking pretty good, that little sheepish. I'm going to iron those ears on now as well. Now these are quite tight, these little curves and points of the ears, so I'll just stitch around one of them so that you can see. Just take it very slowly. You only need to do one stitch at a time and move if that's what you need to do. So I'm just going to start just near, I'm going to start just near the top of the head so that I can go right the way around an ear, and then I come back to the same place, and then I can continue on ready to do the next ear as well. So I'm just going to go very slowly up to the point, leave the needle down, move the fabric, do a stitch in at point, needle down, move the fabric. So just stitch by stitch when it's tight little shapes like this. So I've finished going around the ear, and now I can go on to the top of the head and just continue on in the same way all the way around. I've finished doing all my stitching around the ears and the face, and I'm pretty happy with my little Kiwi sheep. So on the pattern, you'll notice on some of the pieces there was some markings for some eyes and a nose, and possibly some little curly hair and things, and even on the body there was some curls. So if you just had a plainer fabric and you wanted to indicate some curly wool, something like that might work quite nicely. You could stitch it, or I'm going to mark the face with a pen. So I'm just using one of the Pigma Micron pens. It's a black one, and these are a permanent fabric marking pen and just a fine point on them. So I'm going to go ahead and do some eyes. You can mark them this way if you want to. You could pop a pin through, you could fold the little face pattern if you've marked them. This was the back of the applique shape. You could mark them by just doing that and popping a little dot just as a marker to start with, and then you want to make them a little bit bigger just to get the right position. So when I'm marking the eyes, I'm just using the pen, and I'm just going to make two little ovals, upright ovals. And that should allow him to have a little look around. And then he needs a little nose just down here. He probably doesn't strictly need a nose. However, it looks kind of cute with a little nose on there. And then if you wanted to do the little curly hair markings, I have done them on my block up here, but you could just use the pen again, or you could stitch these sorts of things. And it's really just a little wiggle, and I just go over it a couple of times usually. They're not anything amazing, they just give it a little bit of character, indicate a little bit of woolly stuff on top of their head, because we have sheep out here and they actually do have woolly stuff on their head. So that's the Pigma pen that I've used. That is my sheep done. He has a friend up here, and so that's the two sheep blocks finished. These Pigma pens are permanent. You probably could just give it an iron just to help set that ink, but it won't wash out, or it shouldn't wash out. They don't usually wash out. So that's the end of block 12. So we'll see you again for block 13. Thank you.